Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
The Shadow knows.
Hey folks, it's Rob from Rob's Movie Collection, and the Genre Files are back, apparently. They started them up again. Those of you who don't know, the Genre Files is this thing that was started by some YouTubers, and a lot of people have joined in. I got it from Mike at Gray 1951, and every week a genre is picked out of a hat, and then people pick a movie in that genre. I have a playlist called the Genre Files, where I got all the other ones, so check it out if you can. And I guess this week, or I should say probably last week, I'm always like a week late on these, the genre was superhero movies. Now, those of you who follow my channel probably know the answer to my favorite superhero movie. It's also my favorite movie of all time, Superman the movie. I've mentioned it many times. But I'm not going to do that one here because it's my favorite movie, and I want to, when I eventually get around to it, I want to do something really special for it. So I also decided not to pick one of the Marvel ones or the more popular ones today. I'm going with this 1994 version of The Shadow. It's from Universal Pictures, and it's directed by Russell Mulcahy. It stars Alec Baldwin as Lamont Cranston, a.k.a. The Shadow. John Lone as Shaiwan Khan, descendant of Genghis Khan and the Heavy in our film. Penelope Ann Miller as Margot Lane. The first Lane. This is before Lois, actually. Peter Boyle as Mo Shrevnitz. He's a cab driver that helps out the Shadow. He's also one of the people that the Shadow helped early on, so they kind of work for him. A young Ian McKellen as Dr. Reinhard Lane, Margot Lane's father and the scientist. And Tim Curry as Farley Claymore. The soundtrack is by the great Jerry Goldsmith. Now, the Shadow as a character started off in 1930. He was this mysterious narrator that was for this radio program called Detective Story Hour. So he kind of introduced the individual stories. But apparently he became so popular that people actually became more interested in him than the actual stories. So the company that was doing the radio program hired a writer named Walter B. Gibson to create the character and kind of give him a background and all, and write stories featuring him. And this guy ended up writing like a lot of stories. He wrote like over 300 stories regarding the Shadow, you know, with this character in it. And it also had some serials, and I don't mean, you know, I mean like movie serials, that type of serials. A bunch of movies, Shadow Strikes, Shadow Returns, just a whole bunch of films. So, you know, throughout the 30s and 40s and into the 50s even. And, of course, then we've got our 1994 Shadow movie. Now, our movie follows Lamont Cranston as he begins in Tibet after the First World War. And he's got these dark instincts, this dark side that he's given into. And he's become a warlord and an opium kingpin. And he's called Yinko. And this, like, monk guy or something kidnaps him and brings him to his temple, and he knows who he is, and he sees that he has the dark side, and he teaches him how to get it all under control, and in doing so trains him, and he becomes you know, he develops these powers and stuff, and then he ends up going back to his to the United States and becomes a hero, the Shadow. And he works from the shadows, and you know, he's dark and all, and in a way, and this is his way of kind of seeking redemption. So it's a redemption story. He you know, he seeks to do good and make up for the bad things that he did, and help people out. I remember the Shadow actually debuted in the early 30s, and you know, Lamont Cranston has some very interesting qualities. He's a millionaire. He's suave and debonair. He fights crime at night as a mysterious character who fights from the shadows. It's kind of sounding kind of familiar to anybody. That's right, the Shadow had a lot of influence on some of our modern superheroes, especially you-know-who. The story has to do with John Lone's character, Shai Wan Khan, wanting to to take over the world, basically. He wants to do it with an atomic bomb that he's going to have Ian McKellen's character build. And of course, the Shadow has to stop him. As I said before, it is about redemption, but I think they kind of downplay that part a little bit in favor of the overall adventure part of the story with the whole, the atomic bomb and trying to stop him and all that. It might have been interesting if they would have put a little more of the struggle, for Lamont Cranston and the whole redemption angle, but it was still a good story, and it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. I thought Alec Baldwin was really good in the role. It's interesting when he turns into the Shadow, and this is something that is a kind of a little bit of an homage to the original pulp magazines and the drawings. In the original drawings, his nose was angular, was kind of pointed and stuff. So whenever Alec Baldwin turns into the Shadow, or he becomes a Shadow, his face actually kind of changes and extends, and his nose gets longer. So it kind of signifies his bit of his dark side coming out, so he can use his powers and all that. So that was a really cool effect. I really like that. So I won't get into it too much more. I don't want to tell the story much in case you haven't seen it, so you can just check it out and watch it. And I don't really analyze that much or go too deeply, so this is pretty much it. But of course, I'm recommending The Shadow if you haven't seen it. If you like superhero movies, and even if you don't, it's a fun movie, and it's got a lot of style to it, and pretty great to watch, and I think very enjoyable movie. So check it out. That is The Shadow. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the next Genre File and some other videos. Keep watching those movies.